Hello, this is Mike, NoStressMike.com, and I want to talk about guns. No, not really. But what happens when someone carries a gun, when somebody sees a gun, and that type of stuff. The thing is, now I was a kid in the 50s, and in the 50s there was still a lot of cowboy shows on, and so you see the cowboys, and then they're drawing their 6-shooters, and you know, they got their lever action rifles and stuff like that. And then they had World War II was in the 40s. So come the 50s, there was still World War II movies. So I'll tell you, I was raised in Topeka, Kansas, and in town. Well, it was on the edge of town, and I'd go play in the creek a lot when I was a kid, and so I had guns. No, not guns like you're thinking guns. There'd be a stick. I'd get a stick, and I would use this stick as a gun, and I'd run around down the creek, and oh, I'd have a lot of fun, and and so I say I had a gun. See, I had a knife too. Never thought about that, but yeah, I had a knife. But you know, you're out in the wilderness. It really wasn't wilderness, but to me as a kid, it was. I was in the creek, running around in the creek, having fun. Probably wasn't even 2 blocks long, and but the thing is, I was thinking, nowadays, kids, how much experience do they have running around in the woods with a knife, with a gun? You know, I mean, they just don't do that. I mean, by the time the 60s rolled around and I was driving, I could drive and get out in the country. Well, I'd be going hunting, and you know, so I had a real gun by then. And all of this stuff kind of prepared me, because I was, like I say, 18 years old, living in the jungles of Vietnam. It was a challenge. It wasn't nothing like playing in the creek, where at night you can go home. You know, so I mean, I lived in the jungle, and but I always wondered why and how I lived through the stuff that I went through. My whole 13 months I was out in the jungle. A lot of people would get wounded and they'd stay a month or maybe 6 weeks to recuperate, and then they'd come back out. Or like I say, they get wounded, we never see them again. So we don't know what happened to them. So it was just that experience as a child, playing army, playing cowboys and this type of stuff, really made a difference. And that's one of the things that got me. You know, John Wayne was my hero. And when I got into real combat, it got to the point where shooting somebody in the back, John Wayne didn't do that. John Wayne didn't ambush people. You know, now John Wayne would fight a lot. I'd fight a lot, you know, when I was a kid. You know, I mean, and it was mainly the racial stuff. And so that prepared me a lot to do the combat. And then, like I say, here I am, 71, and I'm still kind of, my tactics are different because, like I say, I'm older now. But and I think of things more clearly. Like I say, the thing that got me was when I was in Asia. I spent a couple years in Asia, and 9 months I lived in China. And what I saw on their military, I saw, and I thought, you know, here are these young studs, as old as I was at that time, I could take on, oh, at least 3, maybe up to 4 or 5 of their best military people. And I'm sure that's probably crazy even thinking about it, but just thinking about it tells you my attitude. They didn't have the proper attitude. Remember, they didn't get to play with guns when they were a kid. And guns are nasty. Oh, they're nasty. When people see guns, they get, oh, they cringe. Well, they do in Asia. Asia, most of the times that you saw a gun was either the police military had them, or the really criminals. Really, I mean, these people are criminals. These are the ones that would have these guns. Now, and I lived 14 years in Central America, in Mexico. Now there's more guns, and the reason was not only police, military, and criminal, really bad criminals, but the rich had bodyguards, and all these people had guns, and you could see. I mean, these were guns you could see, and so it's a little different. They're not as scared of guns in Central America and Mexico as they are in Asia. That's why Asia, fighting with the hands is such a big thing. And I noticed it, like I say, in 07 is when I got in a convenience store shooting in Topeka. And I don't think nothing about it. And Southern folk don't think that much about it. But Topeka is northern. There's a line somewhere in Kansas, and above that is northern folk, and below that is southern folk. I get a lot better with southern folk. One of the reasons is guns don't scare everybody all that much. And I mean, when a southerner, they can do open carry, these people can walk around with guns, it's no big deal. Northerners get themselves all excited on the sight of a gun. And the one thing that I figured out, people don't understand, a gun is a tool. That's all it is, it's a tool. And some of these people, when they get a gun, now they think they're just like in the movies. They're a badass in the movies, you know. So, and this is what I evaluate whenever I see people with guns. I just want to see, is it just, they're just carrying? We're all carrying, no big difference, you know. So, you know, or do they do it for intimidation? Because what they'll do, the bodyguards, mercenaries, these people, they use firearms as intimidation. When you're stopped at a stop in Central America and Mexico, they'll stop you on the highways, and everybody's got guns, you know. And so, for me, it's no big deal. But I understand a lot of people, they really get scared when they see these people with guns. And then when they get guns, well, then that's how they're able to rob you. You hear me talk about the bandits and stuff. And the thing is, I understand it's a tool. And when I see them with their tool, I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out how that tool works. So in other words, I didn't bring a gun, but they brought one. So I'm evaluating everybody's guns that they're carrying, and the closer that person gets to me, the more I'm evaluating how that gun works. Once I understand how it works and I know the gun that they have, then their gun doesn't play such as the tool that they were expecting. The tool was to intimidate me. Well, it doesn't intimidate me once I understand what gun you have. And my only thing is, do you have bullets? I'm not sure. And that's when you've heard me talk about sometimes bad folk, criminals and stuff, don't have bullets for their guns, because sometimes they don't. They use the gun as an intimidation tool. So that's why, you know, I'm not intimidated by the sight of a gun. And so it's no big deal. And in the old days, I used to use revolvers. And you could tell the ones that had bullets and the ones that didn't have bullets in the revolver. So, but I just, the reason I'm bringing this up is you watch the people that get themselves all excited about guns. They don't know anything about them. That's the first thing. And then the next thing you know, you see in Seattle, now they got themselves guns, you know. So, and now they think they're badasses because they got a gun. And so it's just, the mentality changes when you have a gun. Now, once you understand and get used to it, your mentality can be normal. But if you've never carried a gun and you start carrying it, you'll see your attitude changes. Everything changes. I mean, I've had to change my lifestyle when I carry a gun. I mean, the way I dress, the way I act, the way I do stuff like this, you know. And it's all changes because I'm carrying a gun, and so I've got to change things. Now, another reason why I'm talking about this is it's so odd, because here in the United States is the only country that I've been in where everybody can have guns. So it's no big deal. And I think it's so funny because even here in the United States, the government officials, politicians are really scared of guns. They're scared of my gun. They're scared of your gun. They're scared of each gun. If there's one gun in the country, they're scared. Here in the United States, we got a bunch of them. But I say, it's the same thing worldwide. Politicians and rulers and all this stuff, they're always scared of guns. And that's why they make them illegal. And that's why you see now these California folk and New York folk, Eastern Coast, Western folk, you know, that's why when they come here in the central part of the United States, they're a pain in the ass because they're looking for gun control. And it scares them when they see us with guns. Like I say, you stop me on the road. I mean, everybody's got, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have guns. Especially I'm out here and I'm out in the country, you know, we all have guns. No big deal. But I say, they really get themselves all shook up. And so it's just a really different kind of thing, the idea of a gun. But it's just something to think on. This is Mike, NoStressMike.com.